Hello and welcome to another Skaredcast video. Today we're going to look at how to build a Drukhari army with the starter kit.
The Dark Kit.
Can we make something that works in a game and to help you develop an army and collect, and especially if you're a new player with the faction of Drukhari, can you build something that works? So I've been playing Drukhari for a very long time. And if you're a fan of Warhammer 40,000, the different factions that we have are constantly evolving and changing. Now, I've been playing this game for so long that I have access to a lot of models and units that you probably don't have access to if you've just started collecting. So this video is aimed to someone that's newer to the faction, just wants to get in, wants to buy a couple of things, and is sort of like overwhelmed at like, where do I get a Court of the Archon or a Beast Pack, or what is all this stuff that Skari is talking about? So let's build a list with starter sets in mind, what is available, and see if we can make something work, and then maybe play a few games with it, potentially at a tournament or at a battle report, and give you an idea of tips and tricks that I would use when you're building a list and you don't have access to all the crazy esoteric units that I tend to use. First, let's take a look at what we get in a combat patrol for the Drukhari. We have an Archon, 5 Incubi, 10 Cavalite Warriors, a Raider, and a Ravager. Now, of course, if you play Combat Patrol, it recommends that you build them in a specific way. I highly recommend you either magnetize them, like I did here, or make sure that you kind of build them so you can switch them up, depending on what you want. And then, of course, build them as you wish. Of course, these are not the specific Archon models, but I use Archon Sepsis and Archon Skari as examples. So the base of this list will be 2 combat patrols, readily available for you to get and build this list from. This sets us at about 1,000 points or so, give or take based on, whatever. Whenever you watch this, it's about a half of a full-fledged competitive 40k army, or like the point level. So I was going through the different things available on the GW website. I noticed that a couple of the things on the GW website were completely out of stock, right? So we had like a few things in stock, but most of the stuff was either online only, right? So you had the Homunculus, the Bomber was online only, the Ravager was online only, the Hellions were online only, as well as the Succubus, of course, the Tantalus's Legends, right? So we had a whole bunch of stuff. Even Scourge are online only, so they would be hard to come by. Based on the fact that a lot of that stuff was hard to get, I needed to think, well, how do I make this more efficient, but at the same time add value to the army itself? I think one of the most important things that you can do is purchase a couple of Venoms, and that really increases the strength of your Drukhari force. What this allows you to do is essentially split the 2 Cavalite Warrior bricks into 2 units of 5 each. So then you'd have 5 little guys with guns and 5 guys with rifles, splitting in the Venoms like that. Now this allows you to have more mission play, and it's a relatively small sort of like point investment in the list, but it really helps the way that the Drukhari want to play. Now, of course, it gives you options. You can either, against a shooting force, put the Archons in the Cavalite Warriors with guns to get pain token full rerolls to hit and wound, or put them inside of the Incubi like that in order to make the combat more effective. Now, you would either be putting the guns in the Venoms to in and out, and then put 5 little Cavalites in the Raider with 5 Incubi, and you can do that in both Raiders. So each Raider has the ability to take objectives and also something punchy, or you can put them in the Venoms and keep them safe like so. So we have a little bit of anti-tank, we have some objectives secure, like scoring, that sort of thing. I think every single Drukhari army right now can really benefit from a box of Mandrakes. They are from the Kill Team set, and it gives you 10 Mandrakes, which you can split into 2 units of 5, which is perfect for current Drukhari in 40k. So we've added 2 units of Mandrakes, giving us the ability to screen the board, do what's called uppy downy, so taking them off the table and putting them back on the table to score missions in match play games. And we've kept the list relatively straightforward, and it's only gone up to about 1,200 points, not including any sort of enhancements or anything that we might want to give. So now that we have a good core of the list, this is where I would say add some Scourge, or add a Beast Pack, or add Lilith, Hesprax, and witches, that sort of thing. However, a lot of that stuff tends to be out of stock. So what can we do? I think one of the best adds to a Drukhari force are a couple of Chronos. Now, the Chronos and Talos kit are the same exact kit. So you could make this 2 Talos, for example, or you could make 1 Talos and 1 Chronos. I personally prefer 2 Chronos because of the pain token mechanic for the Drukhari, which allows you to have make your army more efficient. It doesn't add too much to the list, but it gives you 2 more play pieces if you run them separately, as well as enhancing your army rule, which is kind of what you want. So then to round it all off, I took 2 units of 2 Talos. So that's 4 Talos in total. That means we have 6 of these big tough bodies. I added another Venom. What I ended up doing is I found 10 witches, so I decided to put 10 witches in, and Lilith Hesprax, because I needed a little bit more combat punch as well. And then, to finally finalize this list to 2,000 points, 6 Reaver jet bikes, which could be 2 units of 3 if you want, but they're also readily available. And there you have it. This is 2,000 points on the nose. We've got 4 Talos, 2 Chronos, 3 Venoms, 2 Raiders, 2 Ravagers, 2 Archons, 2 units of Mandrakes, an Incubi, 2 Incubi squads, 2 Cavalite squads, Witches, Lilith Hesprax, and I still had a few points left over to put an enhancement on my Archon. In this case, what I decided to do was take the Arc Raider enhancement from the Reaper's Wager, because I feel like I'd love to play this list as Reaper's Wager, although you could use it for Sky Splinter, and there you have it. So I'll put a list down below, you can go check that out. But in terms of unit composition, how would this work? And then we'll see if it works in bat reps and whatnot, but this gives you an idea of how to build a Drukhari list based on the combat patrols and adding a few things to make a list that I feel would be functional, can play the game of Warhammer effectively, and would be more edition proof, being that it doesn't rely on any of the old kits to be made. Okay, so the hardest part of doing a Drukhari list is sort of understanding what things go in what transports, etc. So of course, we've got the 2 Ravagers, pretty straightforward. They have Dark Lances. We've got the Reaver Jet Bikes. We've got the 2 Chronos. We've got the 4 Talos, and we have the 10 Mandrakes. So how would the rest of the list sort of form up? So the Venoms can split 3 units. Now they have to split the Cabs and the Witches. That's how I would do it. So you'd have 5 Witches and Lilith go in a Venom. She works very, very well in a Venom. Make sure that the Sergeant with the blast pistol goes in her squad normally as well. Then we'd have 2 units of Cavalite Warriors in Venoms. So I'd put 5 with guns in one. And with the second squad, I would put 5 with just rifles in the other. Actually, no, I'd put both with guns. I really like the get in and get out of your Venoms with guns. I think that's super, super important. That gives you 2 foot units, which you can use for, and 3. So you've got 3 mortal units you can use for mission play with the Witches. They're super, super important. You know, put 1 in strategic reserve, sticky objectives, screen out the backboard with them. Use them as screens, they're your throwaway units. And then we have the 2 Raiders. So 1 Raider will have 5 Incubi. The other Raider will have 5 Incubi, and I'd kind of start them probably with that. And I'd put 1 Archon with Arc Raider in either a Venom to go sticky an objective early, or in there. And then the same thing here. Depending on who I'm playing, I could go for more of a shooting build or more of a combat build if I want to do that, or I could mix it. 1 with the Incubi and then 1 with the Arc Raider. I do absolutely love the Arc Raider with that Archon. Sticking objectives, if you go first, is very, very useful in the midboard. Now, another thing you could do if you wanted to is sort of split or combine, the Incubi into 1 giant brick of Incubi. If you absolutely wanted to have a unit that could just smash some face in, you put 1 Archon with 10 Incubi, they keep a whole Raider to themselves, and then you have 1 Raider left over, which you could put 5 little Cabalites on, maybe even put the Witches in there if you want, but it gives you enough play that you can mix and match and essentially find what you need. And there you have it, folks. 2,000 points, how to build a list based on the combat patrol for Drukhari. Please let me know, comment down below if you enjoyed it and if you would change anything yourself. Would you prefer the 10 strong or the 2 5s? Would you do the squad of Reaver jet bikes split in twos or into 2 units of 3 or 1 big brick? And would you take the Talos instead of, or put Grotesques in instead of Talos? But let me know. I hope you found this information useful as a budding Drukhari raiding Archon, Succubus, or Homunculus. I really appreciate all your support. A huge shout out to the channel Patreons and to the Tabletop Forge, without whom none of this is possible. So if you'd like to support the channel, the link is down in the description below. Also, we finally have the Skari hoodies out. I'll put a link down to that from the Red Dragon. There is a discount code you can use. So go on over there if you want one of the really cool hoodies with the logo on it. After all, I've been Skari, your grateful host, signing off until next time. Skari out. The Dark Kin. Get a raid in, everyone. Bye.